Hi, this is Dr. Penelope Jones from Working Posture, and I'm a retired dentist and a 4-year trained Feldenkrais practitioner. I would like to first of all congratulate you if you've just bought yourself a Salli chair, or I'd like to give you some ideas if you're thinking of buying a Salli chair. Sitting on a saddle chair is not like sitting on a regular chair. And sometimes it takes a bit to adapt to it, not because it's a bad chair, but because you're so used to the habits of sitting on a regular chair. So I'd like to offer you some ideas that might help to convince you to do a 2-hour workshop, which I do online to help you to adjust to getting the most out of the Salli chair. So I have a little PowerPoint that I would like to share with you. So we all know that sitting is a health hazard. And in fact, Google has 110,000 articles that are scientific articles proving how big a problem sitting is. It's really become the new smoking, and we know that smoking causes cardiovascular disease, depression, type 2 diabetes, hemorrhoids, and musculoskeletal damage and pain and inflammation. Well, those last two are added to the list of the things that cause smoking. All those other things are caused by sitting all day, unfortunately. So we know that sitting all day can create stiffness, tenderness, aches and pains, not just at work, but after work as well. So how and why does that happen? Well, the Varchis did a big study of the dental team and found out that people who sit to work all day assume static postures. Now, this means that 50% of your muscles have to remain motionless. And this gives rise to what they called prolonged static postures. This is what causes the pain. So what is good posture, you ask? Well, it's certainly not any of these diagrams, which you've probably been shown. Firstly, it's impossible to sit in that sort of position for a prolonged period of time. And secondly, we weren't meant to sit still for long periods of time. This is more likely to cause you problems than anything. Posture isn't a static thing. It's actually very dynamic, the same as with standing. It's a continual adjustment by your nervous system throughout the day to try and get your skeleton aligned, because the weight of gravity and the work that you do needs to go down through the skeleton. Now, the skeleton was built very beautifully to act like a spring, but it can only do that if it's aligned properly. That means where the bones are lined up so the force can go down. Now, if you are off center, you can see the weight has to be taken more by the muscles. That's what causes tight muscles. So we need to ask, what pulls us out of alignment all the time? Well, my experience of 30 years doing working posture workshops and actually being a dentist for about that amount of time too, I found there are 5 bad habits that cause problem. The first bad habit is holding your breath. What happens when you hold your breath? It happens when you're concentrating, when you're trying to do a really, really good crown prep, etc., or cavity preparation. And you do this by tightening the muscles between your ribs. You also do it by tightening your diaphragm. And what happens is, first of all, you get a foggy brain because you're not breathing properly. And secondly, all of those muscles start to become permanently, partly contracted. Now, not only does that make a very tight chest, but that tightness then comes up to your neck and it goes down to your lower back, and then you're in trouble. The second bad habit is slouching forward to see better. And what happens is you can see what happens to the curvature of your spine. There's no spring habit here. Unfortunately, a spine like this one on the left can't be a spring. It's as stiff as anything. And usually your pelvis is rolled back as you're trying to get closer to your work. And there's actually a functional relationship between the muscles at the top of your neck and your eyes. Just put your fingers very, very gently on those muscles where I've indicated with the yellow dots. Make the touch very light and then very gently flick your eyes left and right. And I think that you'll find you can feel a little bit of a twitching in the muscles. So what do you think is happening when your head is far forward and you're staring into the mouth? Those muscles get very, very tight. The third bad habit is raising and tightening your shoulders. Now, have you ever noticed that halfway through the day, your shoulders have started coming up towards your ears? Well, that's because of a very old reflex called the startle reflex. When there's a loud noise, like an explosion, when a baby feels it's being dropped, our shoulders go up towards our ears, the knees go in, and you go into flexion. So you start to pull your belly in and your chest, etc. But what you're not aware of is that this happens at a very subtle rate during the day if you start to get stressed or tense, and you're not even aware of the fact that you're doing it. The fourth bad habit is continuing to work when your body is stressed. Now, we all know that pain is the fire alarm of the body. So when you get tightness and pain, you're supposed to stop. But what do? We pop a pill, we pretend it's not happening, and we keep going. And what this does is it turns off all of our proprioception, makes us numb, which means the way in which your nervous system organizes your muscles to bring your bones into alignment, bring your skeleton into alignment, the proprioception of where you are, that's gone. So there's no way you can come back into balance, unfortunately. And the fifth bad habit is how we sit in chairs. This is how we were born to sit. Look at the beautiful back. Look at the alignment. Hands are free to move. Beautifully aligned skeleton. Can you see a chair there? Nope. Unfortunately, this is how we choose to sit. And these bad habits of sitting like this create the stressed muscle and the holding patterns. And it's not just when we sit and look at our computer, it's when we're working as well we do this, unfortunately. So this is how we're supposed to sit. And this is helped when the pelvis is aligned properly. And this is the point of the Salli chairs, of the saddle chairs. What they do is they help your pelvis to be better aligned. And when the pelvis is properly aligned, the skeleton can align itself properly. Plus, if we deal with all of those other 5 habits as well. So how much are you aware of your habits and the effect of them? Just bring your hands together, intertwine your fingers like that, and have a look around, and you'll see that either the left thumb or the right thumb is on top. I want you to take your hands apart and put them together with the other thumb on top, and not with a finger and a thumb in together. It has to be like that, okay? How does that feel? That feels weird, doesn't it? because every single time you've put your hands together during the whole of your life, you've done it the same way. And the point I'm trying to make here is there are ways in which your body, the nervous system, works, that there are holding patterns and tight muscles. Now, probably if your left thumb is on top, it's because maybe your left shoulder is a little bit higher than the other. Maybe you're concertinaing your ribs on the right-hand side more. Maybe you're standing more on your left foot than the other. Could be anything. And this patterning is all over your body, even when you sleep. So you say, what on earth do we do about that? Well, I'm a big fan of Buckminster Fuller, and he said, you can never change things by fighting the existing reality. If you want to change something, you have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So if you apply that to the body, you never change a bad habit by fighting the existing neurological pattern. You need to create a new neurological pathway that makes the old habit obsolete. So those habits are there for good. But if we find a way to create a new pattern that doesn't cause pain and you bring awareness to it, then you're going to change everything. So how do we do that? We do that with neuroplasticity. My education in the Feldenkrais method 35 years ago was to learn how to use neuroplasticity to basically rewire your system, rewire how your nervous system tells you how to move and help you to move better. So how does it work? Well, the first time that you put your hands together your habitual way, it started creating a pathway up through your spine, up to your brain. Then it started spreading to other parts of the brain, further and further, until finally it's a really well-worn path. And that's why every time you do it the same way. And let me tell you, there are so many of those patterns in your brain. The way you sit, the way you eat your food, the way you reach out, all of those things, many of those are such well-worn pathways that you don't even know you're doing it. So what happens when we invite you in the lessons that I do, in the workshop that I'm doing? I invite you to do things differently, physically, intellectually, and emotionally. Now, if you bring awareness to these, and it's very easy to do that, and have an attention with curiosity, you can change it. So how does that happen? Well, just imagine you put your hands together a different way. That starts to create a pathway. Then that pathway gets a little bit thicker, starts to spread to the rest of the brain, starts to spread even further to the rest of the brain. So much so, if you keep bringing attention to that new way, you can create a new pathway that is just as thick as the old one. So you now have two choices of how to put your hands together, or a choice of sitting that creates pain, or sitting with a way that doesn't create pain. And the nervous system is very smart. And if it figures out that one way is actually better than the other, that means creates less pain, it can actually replace it. And that old pattern, that old pathway can start to basically disappear. That's what we call neuroplasticity, and it's easier than you think. How do we do this? We do awareness through movement classes. What we do is we lie you down on the floor and we suggest movements, or sometimes we direct you by putting our hands on you. And what we do is we make you aware of where the muscles are tight and we suggest new ways to move, and we also help you integrate that new way back into a function. And that function might be sitting, it might be reaching, it might be both of those things. That way it becomes like a post-hypnotic suggestion. So what do we do in the 2-hour workshop? What happens? First of all, I'll show you ways to help let go of the muscular tension that's created by those 5 bad habits. And you can do these either in the surgery or at home, or both. I teach you how to feel and to use your core better, because once you do this, you're going to be much better at finding a new way. Then I teach you how to use your pelvis to align your spine, not just in sitting up straight like this, but in coming forward to work on your patient as well. I teach you how to find what I call the sweet spot. And that involves this sort of action. This is me doing a lesson in Dubai with a whole group of people. And I also show you, I get you to sit on the chair and I look at how you do it and I make suggestions online to help you to align your pelvis. And as you can see, doing it on a Salli chair is much easier than doing it on a flat chair. Then I teach you how to turn and reach using your pelvis. This way you don't wrench your neck. It allows you to turn, but also keep that beautiful alignment of your spine and do it in such a way that you're not stressed out during the day, because the old way that creates pain, what you're actually creating is rigidity. What we want is stability and flexibility, and that's what you get with this movement. And this is me teaching up in Townsville, teaching some dentists. And the underlying, I guess, learning is to understand what happens when you roll your pelvis back. You cramp up your sacroiliac joint, creating sciatica. You get, you squash your discs, and you also create bulging discs, and you also lose the capacity of your of your bracing of your core to actually decompress the spine while you're working. So that's the underlying message that's coming through as well. So I would like you to look up on my website, www.workingposture.com.au, contact me on Dr. Penelope Jones at workingposture.com.au, or look up on Facebook or Instagram, my Working Posture at Working Posture. And please contact me, because I would love to help you. I would love to help make sure that you get the most out of your chair and you stop hurting at work, because that's not nice. Okay, thank you. I hope to hear from you soon.